Alrighty, good morning, everybody. I think we're going to go ahead and get started today. So welcome back to AI Horizons and back from maybe short, maybe long holiday break for you. So now we're in the home stretch, right, of the end of the semester. So we have a couple things on our agenda today. First, we're going to do a brief announcement of an event that will be coming up in the spring. Ryan will be talking about MAKEiT and everything involved with that. And then we're going to look at Microsoft Copilot. So some of you may be aware of this. Some of you may not have heard of it yet, but Penn State now has an enterprise license. So we're going to look and demo Microsoft Copilots and two different browsers. And then towards the end, we're going to do an end of year / end of semester debrief on AI with your classes or just in general here at Penn State. And as always, this is more of a discussion. So if anybody has any questions or topics, please feel free to drop them in chat or just unmute and we can have a conversation about that too. So yeah, now without further ado, Ryan's going to take it over and do a brief update on MAKEiT, and then we'll get started.
Okay, thank you, Zach. So I'm sharing my screen. This is the website for MAKEiT, makeit.psu.edu. So those not familiar with this event that we occasionally put on here at TLT, MAKEiT's an event that we use to explore emerging technologies in really hands-on and exciting ways. So the group here designs all of these activities that uses new technologies and encourages teamwork and encourages problem solving and encourages thinking differently about how the technologies are used, but specifically in relation to your coursework or your research. The ultimate objective with things like MAKEiT is to help staff and faculty be exposed to new technologies, feel comfortable with them, know where the support structure is, so that you can then feel really comfortable and confident incorporating them into your classroom and asking your students to work with these technologies. So we do a MAKEiT every so often when there's enough new technologies that we feel like we have something to share and something to engage in conversation around. The most recent one had a heavy focus on virtual reality and augmented reality and the metaverse. Of course, generative artificial intelligence feels like the perfect time to be exploring this and to really think about how we're going to use it creatively. So there's a focus on the creative aspect of AI. And also, as there will be 3 activities, and I'll share what they are here in a second. One of the guiding principles as we've been designing these activities is thinking about making sure that generative AI is framed, at least in this context, as not just a tool you're using or something that's going to be generating content for you, but as a group member. So if you're in groups of 3 or 4, this is the 4th or 5th group member. And how you incorporate that as part of the problem-solving activity or addressing the prompt or trying to solve the problem that we present with the technology, that it's really that back and forth with the generative AI tool or multiple tools, as the case is going to be, that we're really looking for. And then to engage in conversation about, well, how does that feel? What does that look like? Is that something you would implement into your classes or give to your students? So we'll scroll down just to share some of the important information. There will be more communication to come on this. This will be held on Friday, March 22nd in the Business Building. It's actually the day before the TLT Symposium this year. It will be in the afternoon, so it's a great, think of it as a great pre-conference to the symposium. So if you're not from University Park and you're traveling in on Friday, you could come in the morning and arrive in time to join us for MAKEiT. Registration's not quite open yet, but it will be. And the 3 activities we'll be looking at, you'll be able to choose 2, I believe is how it works out, is that we have 3 activities and you'll be able to choose 2 of them to engage in. So we'll run each of them twice concurrently, and you'll choose one for the first session and choose another for the second session. So the first one is focused on incorporating AI in design challenges And specifically, we'll be applying this towards gaming and educational gaming and using board games as kind of a framework to think about this. So you'll be in groups of 3 or 4. AI will be your last group member, and you'll be designing a game and iterating on it with the collaboration of various AI tools. There'll be a session on using Adobe Express's tools, so focusing on not only Adobe Express, but Adobe Firefly. And the focus will be having AI as a design partner that takes something that starts as a digital design and goes to a physical product is the focus there. And then finally, we'll be exploring in a session on AI video creation and other multimedia creation. So a lot of focus has been on text and a lot of focus has been on images, still images, or design work. So this will focus on the creation of video through AI tools, through kind of a unique process that you'll have to attend to learn more about. So that's MAKEiT. We would invite you to register or reach out if you have questions or interest. As we continue to communicate about the symposium that will be happening on March 23rd, you'll also be receiving communication about MAKEiT. So thank you, and I hope to see you there.
Awesome. Thanks, Ryan. Does anyone have any questions for Ryan or about MAKEiT? Super cool. Awesome. Okay, so we're going to jump ahead. If anybody has any questions, feel free, just throw them in the chat. I'm going to launch a poll for everybody. So before we jump into talking about Microsoft Copilot and doing a short demo, I'm just curious if people here have heard of it, if they have used it, or if they have never heard of it yet. So take a second. Fill out the poll. Looks like we have a lot of responses coming in. I'll leave this open for another 10 seconds here, and then we'll display the results. So it looks like we are split almost. Half of us have heard of it, and half of us have not heard of it, and only 4 people have used it or have had their students use it. So we have almost 90% participation, so that's fantastic. And if you have used it, if you're one of the 3 people that have used it, and if you would like to share your reaction of using it, feel free to do that. I'm going to end this poll. We have 67 people that have answered. Share the results here. So we can see that we have 46% of you have heard of it, and 48% have not heard of it, and that comes out to about 31 have heard of it and 32 haven't. So we're split right down the middle, and not many of us have used it yet. So that's great. So this will be a great sort of demo. All right, so I'm going to stop sharing the polls, quizzes, and I'm going to share my screen here. Okay, so I am sharing my screen. It looks like Alan has used it briefly while monkeying around with, I believe he said PowerPoint there. With Power App, I found it kind of rough and not nearly as helpful as similar questions with ChatGPT. That is great feedback, Alan, and that's a great point to make. So right now I'm sharing a Microsoft Edge browser. So up until about 2 weeks ago, this was only available for Penn State users in the Edge browser, but we can now use it in any other browser. So I'm going to demo Edge browser and the browser I prefer, which is Microsoft or Google Chrome. So to use it in Microsoft Edge, if you do not have this browser, this will likely be a download that you'll have to do for your computer. So once you download, you can see in the top left-hand corner now, I am logged in with my work account. So you will be able to log in with your Penn State account. And you can also add personal accounts if you have personal Microsoft accounts, similar to how Google accounts work as well. But the neat thing about Microsoft Edge and Microsoft Copilot in the Edge browser is in the top right-hand corner is where you're going to access the chat and also a new feature called Compose. So I'm going to go ahead and close that pop-out window real quick. And you'll see that when I pop that open, it's going to be sort of a panel that sticks out from the side, which is different from how ChatGPT and other LLMs work. And then default is going to be set to chat right here. So if you have used Microsoft Bing Chat before, this will look pretty similar. You have your more creative, more balanced, more precise. And you can also see that when you scroll to the top, Penn State has the enterprise version of Bing Chat. So what does that mean? If we click on protected up here, all of our data as Penn State users on our Penn State accounts is going to be protected under our partnership with Microsoft and Penn State. And if you dig into this, you can see that so products provided by your organization. So there's a separate, if you're interested in exploring what is collected, what is not collected, we can dive into that here. But this is good to know that you can just sort of click the green badge up here and jump to the privacy statement. So unlike ChatGPT, which we don't know if it's protected or not, this is guaranteed protected by Microsoft. All right, so you have your chat option, but the Compose tab is sort of the new feature that I want to talk about that isn't really available in ChatGPT or other LLMs, but is built right into the Edge browser in here. And that's something we're going to talk about here. And you can see I have LinkedIn open as a new tab. So you can see that I'm going to demo sort of if I wanted to make a post. And this works for any social media or even if you have your email client open, anything like that. You can come in here in your Compose tab. You can sort of write of if I wanted to post something in LinkedIn, we'll say, I'm going to keep this very informal because this is not what I'm posting, but it's going to help me write something. So I just got back from Thanksgiving break. Write me an inspirational. And we're not going to worry about spell checks because it will do that for me. Inspirational and thankful post. Include 3 action items for my followers. And we're just going to see what this does, right? So we can keep it professional, we can keep it casual, or I'm going to add a +1 here, and I want to say make it thankful. There's different formats down here. I'm going to select LinkedIn post.
You have to hit add on thankful.
Oh yeah, I did not click add, did I? Okay. Thankful add. There we go. Okay, in length we can keep it short, medium, or long. We're just gonna go with a short post here to see what this happens. Oh, and here's another reminder, your personal and company data are protected. So they are very reassuring here. All right, so generate draft, and down here is gonna show us a preview. All right, so what do we have here? All right, it's not letting me scroll as it types, so we'll wait for it to be done typing. All right. So, and this is to say, like, this is not to, I wouldn't post this word for word right from here, but this could be used as sort of a starting place to get an idea of what you might want to post. But one feature here is if you click add to site, it's going to copy this right into here, and we're going to see what this says. I just got back from a wonderful Thanksgiving break, feeling grateful. As we enter the last month of the year, I want to share some things you're thankful for. And we have 3 sort of points here. And it doesn't look like anything is jumping out as blatantly wrong or misguided. I know when I was testing this, I asked it to write a short story of my Thanksgiving break, and it said that I volunteered at a food bank, and it listed 2 or 3 items, so I'm like, that's not what I did. So you have to be careful with what the prompt is and how you're using these things. But it's always great or beneficial to use them as a starting point, but not the end point as well. And we can always re-roll it.
I think I've read this LinkedIn post before. Lots of different posts on LinkedIn, so it's incredible how accurate it is to the tone of
Interesting
this
how
post.
similar thankful people are. So yeah, we can, and this is just, so we can switch this around, right? We can add bullet points if we want. We can make it longer, but this is within LinkedIn. So if we had our Microsoft Outlook accounts here, you can use this to reply back to emails or get started on things. So this is a new tool offered by Microsoft called Compose that's built right into the Edge browser. All right, so do we have, it looks like we have a couple questions with this. Alan has used it briefly. Looks like Matt Bodek, do student accounts have access to the enterprise license? That is a great question, Matt. I don't want to say yes or no definitively, but my understanding is that as long as you have a Penn State Access account at psu.edu, you should have access to that, but that is something we can definitely check back into and let you know. Kimberly Wick has used it to convert images of text to text very quickly, then edited text from there. That's interesting. Alan used it to enter a complex prompt into Bing Copilot for an interactive writing and brainstorming exercise. Got really good, also very cool. Okay, Lisa Lenz missed how you got started. Is this through Office 365 or just searching for Copilot? Lisa, great question. So I'm sharing the Microsoft Edge browser right now. So the Compose tool is only available in the Microsoft Edge browser. Once you download Edge, you will log in with your Penn State email, and that will be connected to our Microsoft accounts. It is not connected yet with Office 365. Office 365 also has Copilot features, but I do not believe those are turned on yet for Penn State. What is the difference between using MS Copilot and ChatGPT? So that's another great question. So there are a few differences that I can speak to, and I'm sure others here could also weigh in on that. But I know the one difference with Copilot and ChatGPT is, so Copilot, I did mention this for a few of you who have just are starting to also keep trickling in. Copilot does have protected data. So if you're using your Penn State Access account, all data shared on your account and our company data is protected from our partnership with Microsoft and Penn State. And ChatGPT, we do not have paid accounts here at Penn State, so you only have access to version 3.5. I would say that the Microsoft Copilot version that's available is more similar to ChatGPT 4 in features and return function. So if you're using the free version of ChatGPT, you won't get the same level of quality that if you've used Copilot or ChatGPT 4, the pro version. And those are just two very small differences. There are many more. I don't know if anybody else would like to weigh in if they know of any differences off the top of their heads or have any other ideas.
Hey Zach, this is Brad. I can talk. Were you going to demo more of this, or otherwise I could go into maybe a couple more differences, but I didn't know if you were going to show like how it can read the web browser or search the web or things like that in your demo.
Yeah, no, I was going to show that feature and also jump into Google Chrome and show what Copilot looks like in Chrome, because using Edge is not mandatory or necessary. If you don't want to download another browser, you can use Copilot in Chrome. But
Well, the other,
like to share something.
I was going to just mention the other advantage of using Edge is if you are in that chat window, it can read what is in your browser window. So you can ask it questions about that, or even load files from your computer into that window and then ask it questions. So if you did have like a lengthy document or some data that you wanted it to do something with, you can do that with this Copilot sidebar in Edge, which I think is a pretty powerful feature. Also, when you ask it questions, it will search the web for the answer, and kind of like, it will search multiple web pages if need to, and kind of synthesize that data for you, which is something that ChatGPT also doesn't do. So those are two, I think, that can be very powerful features that are available.
Yes, all great points, Brad. And others are commenting in chat, another difference, which might be built into ChatGPT Pro. I don't think it's in a 3.5 right now, but any answers Copilot provides will also have little tags of where it pulled that information from. So you can actually verify it from the website that it's pulling it from as well. And as Brad mentioned, so this is a quick demo of what Brad was just talking about. So I have TLT, our TLT website, open up right now. And I have discovered that sometimes it will do this automatically. Sometimes you will have to prompt it. This time I pulled up tlt.psu, and it automatically gave me a page summary for this. So this is a quick page summary of this website right here. So I'm still trying to figure out why it does that for me automatically sometimes, and sometimes it doesn't. I have a hunch that maybe it knows that I like page summary, so it's learning that when I just go to a web page, it gives me one. I don't know if it's actually doing that or not, but I'm starting to get page summaries almost every time I open up a web page on here.
Interesting.
Yeah.
I haven't seen that.
I opened up 2 news articles this morning, and it like summarized them for me right there in the Edge. Okay. So we have a couple more questions, it looks like here. Oh. Jeff has been using Bing Chat on iPhone. That's fantastic. And that's also a great point too, that a lot of these LLMs or chat models are not just reserved for the computer. Most of them have the apps now as well. ChatGPT has an app, Microsoft Copilot, Bing Chat has an app. So you can use them on the go as you go. All right, so I'm going to share what Copilot looks like in Chrome. So I mentioned that if you're using the Edge browser, you will have access to the Compose tab and that side panel of that will read the web pages for you or also answer questions. But if you open Microsoft Copilot in a different browser, you're going to get a more traditional sense of something that looks more familiar or akin to ChatGPT, right? So this is accessible by, I just went to Google and typed in Microsoft Copilot, and this was the first page that came up for me. And when I click try now, if you don't click try now, you can scroll down, and this website has a bunch of information about different Copilot tools. So someone mentioned, is this integrated into 365? Copilot is, but we don't have those features on yet. And if we did, this is what they would look like. So you can sort of explore down here what Copilot in Word or in Excel and PowerPoint could be used for. Right now, we're going to look at just the Copilot, so your everyday AI companion. So this had similarities to that Edge browser panel, right? Except this takes up the whole web page. So if you have used ChatGPT, this will look sort of similar, and you can ask it anything. You can also ask it things recently about the news, which sometimes ChatGPT, at least the free model, doesn't do yet. You can say, what are 5 hot topics in AI from the past 2 weeks? And you can see here that it will search the web and it will go into sort of 5 responses. And I hope one of these will be about Google's Bard connection to YouTube. So that's another newsworthy discussion point, that Google Bard is now given its LLM access to watch YouTube videos, which is an interesting development. And as someone also mentioned, if using Microsoft Bing, you can see these tags right here. So if you click on these or hover over them, it shows you where it pulled those the pieces of information from. And you have your sources down here as well. All right, so it looks like we have a couple more comments here in chat. Okay, so it looks like we have a couple questions on the protections and securities. I do not have that expertise to speak to that. I know we could do the research and definitely look into what sort of is protected and what is not protected.
We could also, if this is really interesting topic of discussion for this group, we could reach out to the Office 365 team and invite one of their team to join us for the next meeting, right? To continue this conversation.
Absolutely. And similar, I also want to point out for those questions, similar to Microsoft Edge, you have this button up here, the green protected. You can also dive into explore what is data we collect and what not. So this is pretty detailed. But as Ryan mentioned, we can also reach out to the 365 team and have someone from their team perhaps join us in our next AI Horizons to talk more specifically about the privacy and security pieces of that. And Adrian, that's a great question about if we can provide it with access behind paywalls to databases subscribed by Penn State libraries. Again, I don't know, but that could be a great question for someone from the 365 team. So I think it's worth exploring having someone come talk about some of the more technical aspects of this. Awesome. Okay, so that is Microsoft Copilot from within the Edge browser and within Chrome. That is now available for Penn State faculty and staff, and I think students with their Penn State Access account. So you can start using that within your courses and whatnot. So do we have any other additional questions about Copilot, Edge? Okay.
Hello?
Yes, Jeff, hi. Did you have a question or no?
Oh, sorry, no, I accidentally unmuted.
Okay, not a problem. Okay, so we have questions around student access. So this is something we can definitely explore. Joe asked if students have been informed of their access to this, or Matt said last month students did not have access to the enterprise license, which I'm not surprised. So it did start rolling out last month, so it may have been in that weird window of it being rolled out gradually, but we can definitely check in to see if students have access and if students have been informed. I would say students, if they were informed, it was the same level that faculty and staff were informed, and there is a small news that was not really pushed out, but is live on the 365 website. So there wasn't really a big announcement that this was available. It was kind of just turned on, and there was a little blurb about it. So I would say, yes, and Matt posted the short blurb that I am referencing. To my knowledge, the link in the chat is the only information that was shared about access to this. And it does only mention faculty and staff. So there is a chance that it's not yet available to students. But that is something we will definitely look into, and we can post an AI in the classroom to see if it is available to students. Awesome, okay. Thank you, Priya, thank you for coming. All right, so now we're going to transition into what we're calling an end of year / end of semester debrief on your use of AI, or if you've used any sort of generative AI in your classroom, or if your staff, if you have heard of any faculty that are using it. So we do have a couple questions here. I'm just going to throw them in chat for folks to read. And these are not prescriptive, right? So we don't have to answer these, but if you have any other feedback or ideas. But the questions that we're kind of looking at are, what examples of generative AI have you seen or have you used this semester? How have you changed your plans for your final project, if you have one, based on generative AI? Have your students engaged you in any conversations around the use of AI? And has your department created any shared policies or messaging to be included in syllabi or just to share with your students? So feel free, if you have any feedback, you can unmute, you can talk, you can post in chat. Or if you have any other ideas, you don't have to answer those questions specifically. So we are curious to hear your feedback. Yes, Lisa, do you have feedback?
Yeah, can you hear me?
Yes.
So I did something in my syllabus this semester with my students to find out how they wanted to use generative AI. And I told them that my general rule, because I was still trying to figure it out, was don't use it except to clean up all your grammar. But if you're going to use it, tell me what you did and justify why you think that's an appropriate use. And if it is, then I will add that to my syllabus as another use that we can have. So we kind of worked on it together, which I thought was a great way to have conversation with students about what they were seeing as the uses. And then I could have a conversation back with them about whether that seemed appropriate or not, and why, and what I was looking for, and what it masks in terms of my understanding what they're learning and understanding. So that's my own experience. The second thing I was going to offer is Erica Fleming, who is my assistant director of teaching and learning in the College of IST, is teaching a large course, 330 students, about generative AI. And I know you and the Dreamery there know about it because she consulted with you. But for the rest of the group, she's been teaching 4 different segments. I'm not sure if I'm going to get this right. One about Gen AI in the area of art, one in Gen AI and music, Gen AI and literature, and I can't remember what the 4th one is. It might be gaming or video or something like that. And her students are all doing the kinds of things that you just said were going to be happening, I guess, during the MAKEiT event in March. And she is finding, she is incredibly heartened because these 330 students are being skeptical, critical, and thoughtful about their uses. You know, as they create something for her, they then have to kind of decompose it and talk about what the pros and cons are, and what they think are the ethical impacts of these tools. So just wanted to throw that out there. And if anyone wants to talk with her, she has an open classroom and is welcoming anybody who wants to come and see her teach to come and visit. She's in Thomas on University Park campus.
Awesome. Thank you, Lisa. Yes, so Erica's class is a great example of, and I love to hear that the students are being thoughtful and critical of AI. So I think perhaps maybe even reaching out to her to see if she would like to share next semester of a debrief on her class, because I know her class ironically takes place at the same time as AI Horizon, so she wasn't able to make these this semester. But also, Lisa, I love what you did with your syllabus and your integration of working with the students on the use of generative AI. And I'm just curious if you had any students take you up on that offer, if you had any students sort of used AI and then put up sort of a use case of why they thought it was interesting, or maybe you didn't have any students do that this semester and it was still new to them. Just curious if.
Yeah, I had one who took me up on it. And he was somebody where with English was the 3rd language for this student. And he said that he found it a huge time saver to be able to at least generate a few ideas with Gen AI tools, because English, he was still doing, I guess, a lot of translation in his head. And so being able to at least get a few ideas out there that were in English already and then work from those was a helpful thing. And I hadn't really considered that because 90% of my students are international students. So I thought that that was something that I definitely need to consider.
Awesome, yes. That's another great use case of students whose their first language is not English is a great use case of generative AI. Any other ideas or feedback or use cases that you have seen? Maybe it's not you using it, but you have heard of a peer who's not here that's using it, so that's also great feedback as well.
I'm also interested in the sense, Zach, that we're, 13 weeks into the semester,
Sure.
which 13 weeks seems like not a lot of time, but in the rapid changes introduced by generative AI, that's an eternity, right?
Right.
And so just thinking about my own experiences and the experiences that I've seen the university going through, that's a lot of change from the start of the semester till now. So I wonder if anybody else has reflected on kind of even how their use or understanding of generative AI has changed the way they're thinking about what they're doing in their role, right? Or accomplishing some of the work that they're doing at Penn State, even if they're not engaging with the tools, but just sort of the awareness, right? How that's been building up. So
Right, yeah.
I think it's interesting to think of it in this 13-week time span, right? For the semester.
Yes, Jeff has his hand raised.
Yeah, I've found myself much more aligned to meliorant thinking, with the criticism coming at the very end, instead of being critical about things in the beginning and not exploring them. That's something that AI has really helped me, generative AI specifically, has really helped me in my thought patterns evolve. So
Awesome.
Generate something and then like do my own review before, like at the end where the criticism comes in, and then the tweaks come in and the refinement comes in.
Okay, interesting. So you're saying to use it, are you saying you do this or you have your students do this where you generate the off of a prompt, you generate it from generative
This
AI
is
and then you
personally the way that I've been using it.
Okay. Interesting. I like that. Thanks for sharing. Carmina posted in chat, she teaches online comm courses and she has had to specifically request citations and references from the textbook for all written work discussions and reports. So that's an interesting comment, Carmina. I'm just curious, you said you have had to specifically do this. Have you had experiences where students were using generative AI to write their assignments for them, or I'm curious what prompted your request
Yes,
to do this.
I'm finding that students are using AI to generate their assignments
Okay.
because they follow the exact format of, a couple of words, a couple of sentences to introduce the topic, then bullet points, then a summary at the end. And the keywords are the same. I've checked it against. I enter the same assignment prompt on AI, and it gives me the same keywords. So it's just too suspiciously similar to what I'm getting from ChatGPT or Bing Chat, and I've had to go around that by saying, no, you need to provide citations and references to back up your answers.
Interesting.
Looks like there's some similar experiences in chat.
Same
People
experience
who
here.
feel similarly to that. Oh, there's somebody.
Oh, and Heather has her question up. Yes, or has her hand up. Oh, Heather, I think you're muted.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Okay. All right. Sometimes I have to unmute twice. So what I found was in a recent discussion board, probably about 60% of my class of 140 it's used AI. It was a low stakes discussion board. It came fairly soon after the midterm, so I think timing has a lot to do with it. Because right after the midterm, they're feeling sort of self-righteous and fussy, and they don't want to put in extra effort. But so far on larger stakes things, I'm not seeing as much AI usage. I think what I may need to do with discussion boards is up the point value, even though they're going to be worth the same amount on the syllabus, and work on rubrics and prompts, because I've also noticed that the more analysis, the more specificity I ask for, sort of the higher we go up on Bloom's taxonomy, the less likely they are to be able to successfully use AI. And I'm working on rubrics that target sort of the bad writing of AI, because with 300 students a semester, I don't have time to fight these things out with academic integrity. So it makes more sense to me to sort of go after the symptoms.
Okay, awesome. Those are great points. And I'd be curious to hear more about the new rubrics you're creating and how you're specifically targeting the bad writing from AI. Because I know for folks that have used AI, some of it is good, a lot of it is bad, and it can be kind of sort of seen if you're looking in the right places, but oftentimes you can look right over it, especially if you have a class of 50, 70, 80, 100 students, you're not gonna be able to read it. But do you have like any like one or two sort of rubric sort of criteria that you have used or integrated that can catch that?
I'm asking, well, the discussion boards are meant to be creative engagement with material. And the AI writing is not creative. It is it's sort of fluffy and boring and has very little content. So if things aren't and for these, it's not something they can really research. It's meant to be a creative discussion. So I'm not really going into researching any of the citations because there aren't any. This is more, I'm getting that kind of brief intro paragraph with a lot of empty prose. Nothing specific, nothing, and so I'm going after them on the details. I want detailed, specific information and analysis, and unless they give me a certain level of that, it can't get out of the sort of C range at best.
Interesting, okay. That is great feedback and information, and kind of connects to the chat going on right now. It looks like Key is mentioning that AI does generate citations by producing a reference with real journal names, but we have Ann Baylor, who I believe is working in the library, mentions that they have seen a lot of fake citations come in via interlibrary loan requests. Which is interesting because you could have ChatGPT or these large language models making these very sophisticated looking, whether it's citations or papers, right? But when you really boil down into them, sometimes those citations don't exist.
Yeah, I guess the moral of the story is that you shouldn't rely on these for doing your, I think a lot of people will put in and ask them to do like help do a literature review or a systematic review or find sources to support XYZ topic that they're doing research on, and it will generate plenty of sources in a list, but they don't actually exist.
Very interesting. Looks like Everton mentioned that GPT research does a great job with citations, recovering references. Everton, I'm not familiar with GPT research. Is that a plugin or connected to ChatGPT, or I'm not too familiar with that tool? We'll have to look into that a little later, see what that is. But Heather mentioned that a relative teaches writing at Cleveland, and for her, it's the fake citations that are the red flag for her. So, looks like we have 10 minutes left. It's interesting to see sort of the two sides of this reflection going on, right? So we have folks that are looking or seeing a lot of these plagiarized papers or fake citations. And then we have folks that are looking at sort of not necessarily leaning into generative AI, but looking to see what are how they can use it with their students or building collaborative syllabi. So whether you're in either camp, I think both are valid in trying to figure out what this new landscape of education looks like in generative AI. Just to piggyback off of what Ryan said earlier about just in these last 13 weeks, so there's been like rapid change. And reflecting on this past semester, I look back at we're in November now, right? And if we look back last November, ChatGPT wasn't even really available yet. We were hearing about ChatGPT, but it wasn't really open for public use until like December. And January is really when people started to explore it and use it. So just in the past, not even 12 months, everything about generative AI has really just, everything we know or have learned has been from the past 11, 12 months. And that's almost, for me at least, overwhelming, but just think of everything that's happened in the past 13 weeks still. So yeah, I don't know if anybody has any reflections on the past year as well, just from last release, or from the release of ChatGPT, and then from every other tool that has come after that. I know it's it has been for me both fun and exciting, but also a lot of work. Alan posted a roller coaster emoji, which I think says it perfectly for me as well.
I think what's been, I'll say inspiring to me
I like
is
that,
watching the university community come together to try to puzzle this out as a group, regardless of discipline or work area. And you know, it's not just Penn State, but the entire higher ed community is looking at this. And it's, if it wasn't so sometimes intimidating / slightly scary, I think it would be just amazing to see that there are topics like this that unite us, and that there are ways that this will be approached. I think when we're doing this again next November, it'll look radically different than this one. And I think I take some comfort in, so at the end of spring 2023 and going into the summer, we were all worried. We were like, okay, we got through this one, but like by fall, all the students are going to have these tools and they're all going to be using them to do everything. And we have no idea what the fall semester is going to look like. So we're almost there. almost survived the fall semester, and we have a better idea of what the actual shape of this will look like, knowing it's going to continue to evolve and change. But that we're creating the opportunities and the spaces to have these conversations, be able to reflect with each other and learn from each other and develop these best practices. I'm optimistic that we're figuring this out.
Yes.
There's my reflection.
That's a great reflection, Ryan. And I will end here with first answer. There's a question in here that I just saw. Oh, Adrian's question about is Copilot going to be integrated into 365? Will it work like Slide Designer tool in PowerPoint? The answer is yes. It is already integrated into PowerPoint, but not Penn State's version of PowerPoint yet. So 365 or Copilot is available for all Microsoft tools, but we only have access to the chat version of Copilot. And lastly, that I'm going to build off of what Ryan said about this, his reflection, which I couldn't have said it better, but also to connect what's happening in the news. Like, it's not just higher education that is struggling with what is generative AI and how to cope with this. If we look at companies like OpenAI, for instance, they just ousted their CEO and their co-president, Sam Altman, just to bring him back 4 days later. So they're still unsure of leadership and what to do with this. And my last thought is I really want to call out Heather Broom in her comment in chat about rewriting her course introduction to really inspire students to recognize that these are just tools. And I love that. This is just another tool that they can use, and it's our job as faculty and staff to kind of work with these students and train them and teach